Hello, today we're going to be talking about mean, median, mode, and range. Now this is something that you have done before, so it starts out it's going to be a little bit of review for you to get you going on our unit on data and statistics. The first part is going to be vocabulary. So when it talks about a data set, it is talking about all of the data that you've collected. So say for instance you were looking at buying new shoes and there are 8 of them that you like. Well, those 8 shoes and their prices would be your data set. So it's the set of all the data. Each one then is called a data point. So if it starts talking about a certain data point, that means it's talking about one pair of shoes or one number in your data. The mean then is the average. So if I'm looking at the shoes, they all have different prices, but I could take their prices, add them together, divide by the number of shoes that are there, and that's going to give me my mean or average price. So the mean is the average. So $48.50 is the average price of these shoes. Now if you're looking at these, you might say, but Mrs. Williams, a lot of them are close to that, but there's some that kind of are far away. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. The median then is the one in the middle. So I need to take, this is the most important step, all my data as soon as I get it and put it in order from least to greatest. This helps me see things very quickly, such as numbers that might be very large or very small compared to the others. It might help me see data points that repeat. And so we have the median, which is in the middle, and that is the other data point that we can see when we put them in order from least to greatest. So when I go from least to greatest, I have 8 data points. If I'm trying to find the one in the middle, because the median's in the middle, and I think of it as the medium, like small, medium, and large, and the medium's in the middle. When I go through and I'm trying to find the middle, I find that there's actually 2 numbers in the middle, or the number that I'm looking for is in the middle of those numbers. So I'm going to take those 2 numbers, I'm going to add them together, and then I'm going to divide by 2 to find the number that would go there is 41. The mode is the one that happens the most. So if there are data points that repeat themselves. So for instance, in our data set, we have the number 20 twice. There are 2 different shoes that cost $20. So that is called the mode. It's the one that occurs most. The next vocabulary term we're going to look at is the range. And the range is just the distance from the largest to the smallest. And all I have to do to find that is to subtract. So I do my largest data point minus my smallest data point, and I get 102 as my range in this case. The other term we're going to look at is outliers. So remember we were talking about the mean or the average, and we said, well, most of the shoes are pretty close to that, but there's some that are really far away. If I have those data points that are very far away, we call those outliers. And they can skew the data or make the data say something that is not true. So you have to watch out for outliers. So in this case, our outlier is $122, but I would actually look at the $20 shoes as an outlier as well, because that's more than 100% difference. Like that's double. I would have to more than double that to get to my average price of the shoe. So I would actually consider both of these shoes to be outliers, as well as that $20 one. Down here at the bottom, we're going to practice putting those terms to work. So on my first data set, I'm going to take it right away and I'm going to put it in order from least to greatest. And as I do that, I'm going to mark them off my list. And then look, I see I forgot the number 3 down here. So that's why if you mark them off, it kind of helps you keep track of which ones you've used. And then you can go back and say, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And you can check that way. I'm going to put a little 7 over here to remind myself that there were 7 numbers in my data set. I'm going to go and find my mean next, which means I'm going to take these numbers and I'm going to add them up. And I'm going to divide by the number of data points in my data set. When I add those together, I get 46 divided by 7, and I'm going to get 6.6, or I could round that up to 7. Because I don't have any decimals over here, I just have whole numbers, I should probably round to whole numbers when I'm looking at my mean, median, mode, and range. My median then is going to be the one in the middle. Since I have an odd number of data points, I can go from the ends in, and then I see that in the middle I have the number 7. So my mean and my median happen to be the same in this case. My mode is the one that happens the most. Well, when I look at this data set, I do have the number 3 that occurs more than one time. Nothing else does, so my mode is 3. Now my range is the distance from the largest, which is 11, to the smallest. And so I find that my range is 8. My second set of data, I'm going to do the same thing. My numbers are a little bit bigger, but that's okay. I notice I have the number 13. And then my next smallest is 19. 27. 33. 36. 44. 48. And 52. When I take these and do my mean over here, find my average, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there are 8 numbers in my data set, which tells me that that is what I am going to divide by. When I add those up, I get 272. And when I divide by 8, I get 34. My median is going to, since it's an even number, I'm going to end up where I have those 2 in the middle. So I'm going to add those together and divide by 2 because I'm just adding 2 numbers together. So I can always look up there and count how many I have done. And when I do that, I am going to get 34.5, which I'm going to round to a whole number, which is 35. Now in this case, you'll notice I don't have any data points that are repeated. So I don't have any mode. My mode is going to be none. I don't have one this time. I just don't have any numbers that repeat themselves, and that's okay. My range is still from my highest to my lowest. So my range is 39. So there are 39 points between my 2 data points. On the back, we're going to be doing the same thing again, but we have decimals, and that's okay. We have one really small decimal here. I bet you're going to know already from our vocabulary on the other side that that's going to have a special name. You'll notice I'm really making my commas clear because I have a decimal. I want to make sure that I know which one's my decimal point and which one's my comma. I want those to stand out. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put them in order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I know I should have 9 data points. When I add these up, I'm going to get 50.4 divided by 9, which gives me 5.6. because we're going to one decimal place, I'm going to use all of my answers to one decimal place as well. Since I have an odd number again, I can find that number in the middle with just check marking off what I have and getting to that middle number. My mode, you'll notice I have two different data points that have multiples. And since they both have the same number of multiples, there's two 5.9s and two 6.8s, I am going to have two modes. So I can have no mode, one mode, or more than one mode. So the mode's pretty flexible. The range is still the largest minus the smallest. And I do have that outlier. That's what I was talking about, that 0.4. Everything else is between 5.9 and 5.8, which is really close together. And then that 0.4 is way far away from the rest of our data set. Now they're saying, what if I took that outlier and I removed it? What would happen? Well, I want to talk about the range first. So my range would be from 6.8. If I took out that 0.4, it would be to 5.9, and I'm going to subtract. So suddenly my range, instead of being 6.4, is just 9/10. So suddenly my range is a whole lot different. My mean without my outlier would be 50 divided by 9, which would be 5.55, which would still round to 5 6/10. My median, I would have to do 6 1/10 plus 6 2/10 divided by 2, which would be 6 1500ths, which would round to 6 2/10. And my mode would still be the same. My mode would not change at all. So the biggest impact that removing that outlier has in this case is the range. Down at the bottom here, we have a question where we're trying to use this skill set to prove whether or not someone's telling us the truth, which is kind of important. So it says, imagine you want to find a job. The hiring manager tells you during your interview that their company's employees earn over $13 an hour on average. Is she correct? Prove it. So to prove it, we need to find the average or the mean of these earnings, these hourly wages. When I do that, I have 10 of them, so I'm going to divide by 10. Now you'll notice when I do that, I get $13.03. So yes, she is telling the truth. And our work there proves it because it's $13.03. Now, you might see a little problem. Hopefully you notice this, that if the hiring manager is telling the truth, then what is the problem with her claim? Well, the problem is this massive outlier here. Everybody else is not making anywhere near close to $13, but because we have this one huge outlier, it skews us all the way up there. So a better way to estimate it then would be to take that 52 out and just divide by 9. So if I start with my 130.3 and I take that $52, all right, so what we looked at there was that she is telling the truth, but there is a problem with her claim. So with that outlier, we are going to find a better estimate. So if my original average, I did 130.3, if I take that 52 out, I'm going to get 78.3. I'm going to take 78.3 and I'm going to divide it by 9 because I no longer have 10. I've taken that one out. I only have 9. So if I do 78.3 divided by 9, I find that the new average, that